Welcome into the Saints Insider Podcast. Today's Friday, November the 8th. Zach Ewing here with Rod Walker, Luke Johnson, and Matthew Paris, our Saints Insider team from the Times-Picayune. And we're here to preview Saints Falcons 2.0 for this season. And boy, is it different than 1.0. Just about everything has changed around the Saints. Falcons look a lot better than they did the first meeting. This is going to be an interesting one, though.
I think so. I think I had a harder time picking an outcome for this one maybe than I did in the first time around, which is weird considering the Saints are losers of 7 straight and they just fired their head coach and traded their best defensive player. But here we are.
Yeah, lots of variables. Obviously, you guys had a whole podcast on Wednesday, the biggest one being that Darren Rizzi is in, Dennis Allen is out. And we'll talk about this a little bit more, but Matt, it feels like I haven't been in the building since then, but the energy is different pretty much all the way around.
Yeah, Darren Rizzi has really tried to shake things up, whether it's symbolic gestures like the defense and offense flipping sides of the field, whether it's trying to incorporate a little bit more fun by having position players or position groups pick the playlist before practice. And then he's also tried to change faster tempo practices, more plays. We'll see if it works, but I don't know. I'm not terribly optimistic, if I'm being honest.
Yeah,
we should start a petition to have Saints beat writers pick the podcast audio, like the bumper music, which we don't have. I think Rod would probably go with some Hall & Oates.
I got on Rakim today, so
Matt would pick a band that only a few people have heard of, but guaranteed banger.
Some
I'm letting you know
band.
Right now. I might just go with Shane Lemieux's option and just have Unwritten be our bumper music. What about you?
Little Natasha Bedingfield.
Yeah, I feel like you'd just like throw out some like 80s band.
I have an eclectic mix of music tastes.
You call it eclectic. I don't know if I
80s band like AC/DC.
See, you say eclectic, and that's exactly what I'm anticipating you'd choose.
Oh man. Well, no, but I mean, then I might choose country the next week. So that's what I'm saying.
That's number 2 on the option of what you would choose.
Anyway, point being, Rod, like this, if Dennis Allen in a alternate universe, Dennis Allen's still the head coach. This game feels like a damn funeral march. Win or lose on Sunday, it has certainly shaken things up.
Yeah, definitely. I think, this will be a pretty sad podcast. Our predictions will be a little different at the end of the show. And so, I think everybody's just looking forward to seeing what happens. I mean, it is kind of a breath of fresh air to see something different. I mean, we've slogged through this for the last 7 weeks, so we all want to just at least see some good football. Even if they don't win, we want to see, like, some fight. And I think Rizzi kind of brings that.
You know, when I was in college, I'd play NCAA football, 2005 or whatever it was, with a roommate, and we would alternate between the Beatles 1 CD, Tom Petty's Greatest Hits, and the Garden State soundtrack. Is that more eclectic for you?
I was trying to figure out where that was going, but
I feel like I'm trying. Like, am I defending my?
Yeah,
Zach's bringing up his bona fides.
Yeah. All right. Saints Insider is sponsored by Bank Plus. They've got bona fides, and their banking decisions are actually made here in New Orleans by local bankers who know the community and take the time to know you. From small business to big business, from home loans to Bank Anywhere technology, Bank Plus is here for New Orleans. Learn more at bankplus.net. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Let's hear from Bank Plus and our other sponsors, and we'll be back right after this break.
Ooh, I see at least 3 of them in there.
3 what?
Possums, big rats, I don't know.
Clarify big.
You're gonna have to gut it.
How much is that gonna cost? You guys should just move.
Maybe.
Is that your van?
Hi, strawberry mango. Mm-hmm. Here you go. Thank you. I'll take another one.
There's no better place to parlay than Caesars Sportsbook. Parlay Builder gives you all the game day action from all across the league. Multiple games, legs, and props, all in one spot. It's so quick and easy, you can keep your focus on the games and your nachos. Or if you're focusing on one game, remember, you can place your same game parlays live during the action. Caesars Sportsbook, the only sportsbook app with Caesars rewards.
Welcome back to the Saints Insider Podcast. Talking some Saints Falcons. The game is at noon on Sunday. Betting line is Falcons by 3.5. Super interesting betting line for those who are into that sort of thing. This was like a pick'em. If you could, you have look ahead lines that are like from 2 weeks ago. The game was like a pick'em, maybe Falcons -1. Then all of a sudden, the Saints lose in Carolina. It jumps to 3. It got as high as 4. Now it's starting to come back the other way. I don't know. It's just interesting. As you said, Luke, it's hard to predict what's going to happen.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of right in line with what I mean. It's pretty much exactly what my prediction ends up being. Not to give too much
Spoiler
away
alert.
there. Yeah. I mean, I still think that the Falcons should clearly be favored in this game. The Saints have lost 7 straight. All the stuff we just went into. And Falcons have been playing really good football really since I guess a week before they played the Saints, right?
They've won like 5 out of 6, I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
They randomly lost by 3 touchdowns to Seattle in there, but every other game,
they've played really well, beating some good teams. So I mean, I think they're a good football team, and I think maybe that little bump that maybe some of us are feeling is just because things look different this week. But I think if you just put them in a vacuum, looking at these two teams, you'd probably pick the Falcons to win 9 or 10 times out of 11.
Matt, as much as we talk about the energy being different, this team still has some very familiar problems, some injury issues that are exacerbated by Marshawn Lattimore being shipped off. I mean, there's the same old issues are still there.
I mean, I can't decide what's worse right now. The receivers that New Orleans is going to throw out on Sunday are the cornerbacks. Like, we all love Alante Taylor, and Mason Tipton might be an interesting player down the road, but it's going to be Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Excuse me.
6 of one, half dozen the other.
Yeah, at least I said Marquez and not Marquez. You've got Mason Tipton. Equanimous St. Brown is probably going to be the third.
Yeah.
Do they like?
I mean, are they
Chris
going
Olave is
to
gonna be
have Jermaine Jackson running offensive snaps? All 5'6" of them. Are we going to see Dante Pettis for the first time? I mean, they're in a really bad spot at receiver.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that's something we talked about before the season started, right?
If one of those top 2 guys gets hurt,
Right, and there are 2 guys. Look,
both of them
these are guys that have not missed like significant stretches of time in their career, but they're both guys who have dealt with injuries. So I mean, I think this was a huge oversight on their part, and I think a lot of us were talking all offseason about them adding a receiver either in the draft or free agency. The only receiver they added was Cedric Wilson. Now we're not anticipating he's going to play. He's dealt with injury this year. This was a pretty obvious flaw on the roster, and that's not just hindsight talking. Like those 2 guys are 2 smaller receivers who've dealt with injury in their career, and now they're both. Yeah, Rashid's obviously out for the year. We don't know what's going to happen with Chris Olave, and they're in like a huge bind. Yeah. I mean, the guys they have on the roster right now. Look, we could talk about career catches all we want, but the guys they have on the roster right now, like catches in a Saints uniform, is it 10? It might not be.
Mason Tipton might be.
Mason Tipton might have 10.
He's got probably 8 of the.
Like that's what we're talking about here, and it's like, look, they played last week. I can't remember exactly what the stat was, but it was something like 78% of their offensive snaps. They had 2 tight ends on the field last week, and there's a reason for that.
Yes, there is.
Jamar Chase probably has more catches and yards last night.
I guarantee you that he had more catches, more yards, and more touchdowns last night than the entire Saints receiver core has for the Saints team this year.
Yep. We should look that up.
I don't even think it's close.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's close. There is one bit of good news, probably not going to affect this week, but the Saints did bring Eric McCoy back for his 21-day practice window off of IR. He probably won't play this week, maybe next week, maybe after the bye. But this is going to be our transactions segment, which is proudly sponsored by Associated Grocers. Join our team and help support the success of local independent retail grocers. Apply today for available positions at Associated Grocers. This team's obviously missed Eric McCoy, guys. We don't expect him back Sunday. Do you think against the Browns, or are we looking at after the bye?
I mean, I'm not completely ruling him out for Sunday yet. We haven't had a chance to speak to Darren Rizzi yet. I wouldn't bank on it, but like, I think there's like a slight chance he can go if he was back out there practice. I think McCoy's the type of player who would want to suit up. But yeah, I think if they're bringing him back to practice yesterday, I would certainly think that next week is on the table, looking optimistic for it.
And if he did come back, we talk about all these problems at receivers, Matt, but that would certainly help the run game if that's what you're going to lean on.
It would. That was like the one thing that worked against Atlanta in the first meeting. And Alvin Kamara's, 11 yards to tie, 12 yards to break the franchise record by Mark Ingram for being their all-time rusher. So that matters for them. Taysom Hill being healthy helps. That's like probably the one way that New Orleans is going to try and put up points is through the run. But because they're so injured at cornerback, I feel like that this is going to be a game where they're going to have to keep pace with Atlanta, and I just don't know if they have the firepower to do that.
Well, let's talk about the other injuries then. We did mention Cedric Wilson, Chris Olave not practicing, not expected to play, Kool-Aid McKinstry, and then the other one is Lucas Patrick. It's the same old song, Rod. I mean,
if McCoy does play, it obviously helps. When you look back this season, I mean, when he got hurt, the first drive of the Eagles game, that's when things pretty much fell apart for this team. That was the beginning of this downfall. And
they're scoring like 16 points a game since week 3.
Yeah. So, I mean, the injuries are, I mean, they've taken its toll on the season. Kind of something that Mickey tried to, that was kind of his justification for why he thought Dennis Allen could have probably stuck around, but that wasn't enough. I mean, they had to do something different.
Yeah, it's not great. Saints fans, Associated Grocers is hiring. If you're looking to join a team dedicated to supporting independent retail grocers, apply today. Your future starts here. Before we get into our breakdown, I did want to talk a little more about Darren Rizzi and how he's changed things. And I mean, again, I haven't been in the building this week, but I've been impressed by an interim coach who came in with a plan. Because so many times I think you get a guy who just knows he's minding the store for the rest of the year, and I don't want to rock the boat too much, and let's just keep everybody happy and punch the clock 8 more times for the 8 more Sundays. He doesn't feel like that. I mean, he came in, obviously had a plan, what he wanted to do, that he wanted to change things, some very specific things, the way they warm up for practices, try to prevent some injuries, to music choices, changing around the locker room, like just some simple things that you guys mentioned, but maybe they're significant, maybe they're not. But I just thought it was impressive that he had a plan.
I agree. Look, this is somebody who has wanted to be an NFL head coach for a long time. He wrote an article for the 33rd team a couple years back about why special teams coaches make good head coaches. He has interviewed for the head job twice. I don't think any of us were expecting him to get it because I think we were all anticipating that would go to Dennis Allen. But he's somebody who has a plan, and he has a particular way of doing things, and I think that way resonates with the players, which is something that I think Dennis Allen struggled to do sometimes. And you've seen, look, who knows if it's going to matter? We just got done talking about all the issues this team has. They're 2-7, they're dead in the water, etc. But like I think all of us can back up the vibe you're picking up on. It's felt very different in that locker room this week. Even just moving the lockers around, it has been like rowdy in there. Almost.
It has, but you wouldn't. If you walked in the locker room, you wouldn't think this team had lost 7 straight games. They don't look like a team that's.
Did they last week look like a team that had lost 6 straight?
Look, I'll tell you that like they have all season because there's been nobody in the locker room all season. Like they're not in there. You know, it's been one of the strangest years I can remember covering the NFL outside of the COVID years where we weren't allowed in the locker. There's been nobody in there. They come in there, they talk, and then they leave. It's always like I've got a meeting. It's like how many meetings do you guys have? Right. It's been a different vibe this week, and there are guys just chilling in there. There's music in the locker room, which like I can't remember that this year. There's guys seem like they're having fun. I don't think that's like circumstantial or random. I think that's purposeful. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what it looks like. It might not matter, but I think it does matter to these guys.
You know, we talk about this team is kind of not equal the sum of its parts. Like they're too talented to lose 7 in a row. They're too talented to lose some of the games that they do and play the way they do. So I don't know. Maybe this is the change. If the hashtag vibes are high, maybe you get the sum of those parts and some of those talented players. The other thing, Matt, I mean, and Rizzi has mentioned this a couple times. he's going to coach differently. I mean, he's going to be more aggressive than DA was. He's going to go for, he mentioned specifically the 4th and 1 that the Saints had, I think, at their own 48 or 49 against Carolina, and they punted. He said, hey, analytics say to go for that. He talks about game management, how he held the challenge flags in Miami, all these things. Like he is going to be more aggressive than Dennis Allen was.
I think so, but he also has the luxury of being aggressive because they're 2-7.
What does he have to lose?
He doesn't have to worry about his job potentially being lost. So, yeah, I mean, that's great. I'm gonna poo-poo the whole vibes are high. Like I went back. If you want to ring the bell, Luke. I went back out of curiosity after Washington fired Jay Gruden 5 years ago and read, here's Bill Callahan's first practice. Had them running sprints, had them running, practicing harder. Guys were encouraged by the attention to details. They went on to win 3 games. They finished 3-13. So, the vibes are great. I just don't think it's going to make a difference on the end product. And I actually thought Rod's column today was really good because of the former Saints interim who's told Tom Benson at the time, this is a bad football team. I think the Saints are a bad football team right now.
Yeah. I think we all agree with that. I just think that all this stuff might not matter, but it is noticeable. And I think that it is, if not an indictment of DA, I think it is a strong suit of Darren Rizzi's, and it wouldn't surprise me if they went out there and played harder and didn't look like a team that had lost 7 straight. They might still finish the top 5 draft pick this year. I don't think there's any question about that because of all the other stuff that's going on. Because maybe they just aren't a good football team. But we've also talked ad nauseum this year about them losing games that they should have won, losing games in just crazy fashion. Last time they played the Falcons. First team since 1980 to lose a game where he scored 24 points and he didn't give up an offensive touchdown. I mean, granted, one of those touchdowns came off of a special teams mistake, Darren Rizzi's area. But yeah, they've had so many of these games. They had another one last week where they're finding these confounding ways to lose. And I just think that I think that it was clear that change needed to be made. I don't think there's any disagreement on that, and I think that just having this new kind of brighter outlook will make things at least a little bit better, even if it doesn't show and be reflected in the outcomes.
And going back to Matt was referring to the column, and so I talked to Rick Ventura, who was the interim coach when Jim Mora resigned in the middle of that season, and he did the exact same things that Rizzi did. He said he came in and changed up the practice schedule, and just do different things to let the team know that, hey, we're going to do things differently, and you try to get you hope that's enough to kind of get some different results. But when it's all said and done, he only won 1 game that season too, and they had a long losing streak in there, and every coach they've had. I mean, if you take over as an interim coach in the middle of a season, it's because you're taking over a really bad team.
That was the diddly poo team.
Yeah. So who knows if this is going to work, but at least it's a spark. I don't know how long the spark actually lasts.
Yeah, and I mean, at this point, Saints fans might be just totally fine if they lose, 15 straight to close the year, right. And you start the whole thing over. Get the number 1 or number 2 pick and go from there.
That's happened to John Benton before, by the way, and Rick Dennison on the staff. They with the 2013 Texans, they started 2-0, lost 14 straight to close the year.
Man. That would be insane if that happened to him again. I'll push back a little bit on the the comparisons to the Callahan Washington team and the diddly poo team. I don't think they're 2-7, and they were legitimately a bad team when they were racked by injuries. When Spencer Rattler starting a quarterback, and the Denver game, maybe the Chargers game, the Tampa Bay game, that was not a good roster. But they've shown at times this year that their roster is competitive. Now, are they there right now? We talk about the receivers and corners. I don't know, but after 9 games, their point differential is minus 22 or something. They are better than 2-7, and so I don't know if you can just say, this is a bad team. It doesn't matter. I think there may be something to let's get some more out of the talent we have in the building. Now, I don't know if it's going to happen.
We will see.
We're trying to predict.
I mean, they also lost to the playoff sleeper Panthers, so
they did. They did, and I think that's where you're just. like, yeah, it's time to clean house. It was a weird game too, but we'll see. We also want you to subscribe to the Saints on NOLA.com YouTube channel. Hit the like button below. Leave your comments as to what you think the Saints will do this week. We'll ask for your predictions a little bit later in the show. We're going to take a break, and after that, we will do our breakdown of the game and give you our keys to the game and make our picks. All right, beginning our breakdown of Falcons at Saints Sunday's game. Start when the Saints have the ball. Luke, you mentioned this. They ran the ball very effectively, at least to start that game in Atlanta.
Matt mentioned
but
it.
I'm sorry. Was that direction?
I will pick up on that.
I mean, it was like 68 yards, I think we have in there, the first 2 drives, which was like a quarter plus a minute of the second quarter. And that's when Taysom Hill was in the game, by the way.
Yes, coincidentally, this is my bell. That's my bell. That's Taysom Hill's music. Yeah, he's killed killed the Falcons throughout his career.
He's got the book.
I got the book. Taysom Hill in his career versus Falcons, I think there's 15 games. Some of those games he was just playing special teams. 68 carries, 462 yards, 6.8 yards per carry, and 6 touchdowns. 2 of those came in the last meeting. 10 targets, 10 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown. And as a quarterback, 57 of 75. That's a 76% completion rating. 702 yards, 9.3 yards per attempt, 4 touchdowns, 122 passer rating. He loves playing against these guys.
I'm convinced. Give him 30 touches.
Yeah, well, don't give him 30 touches because then he's never going to play again this year. But look, I think if he's healthy in part of the game, if Eric McCoy is up, if Alvin Kamara is continuing on his path, he was tremendous in the last game against, granted, worst run defense in football. Look, I think that's what I would lean on, especially given what we've talked about with their receiver deficiencies. This is a Falcons run defense. I'll get to that later. That has some issues defending the run. The Saints ran the ball really well against them last time. I don't think this is one where you want to put the ball in Derek Carr's hands 35 times. Even if the Falcons get out to like an early lead, I think you gotta consistently lean on that running attack, and hope it's some of these signs of life that it's shown the last 2 weeks against the Chargers and the Panthers that carries over into this week, because I think that to me is the most important part of this game.
Yeah, Darren Rizzi mentioned complimentary football this week, which is kind of an old coach's cliche, but what that means this week is controlling the clock, Matt. That Falcons offense that has been rolling now for a couple of months, you just want to limit their possessions.
Yeah, and if you're going to depend on the run like they want to, you're going to have some chunk plays in there. Another week removed from coming back, Derek Carr might be sharper, is I think what you would hope for if you're a Saints fan. His connection with Foster Moreau this year has actually been maybe one of his best things. Foster Moreau's had a nice season. Juwan Johnson getting him involved in there. But yeah, they haven't had a lot of games that in this losing streak that they've really controlled the clock, and if they can get back to that, then I think it'll be at least a close game.
Yeah, I don't think they even need to really overthink it this week. I mean, that's what you got to do. I mean, you got to use the tight ends, and you got to hope you can run the ball. Because if you count on those receivers, it could be, I don't know. I mean, maybe one of them surprises us, but I just don't really see that happening. I mean,
maybe we'll finally see the Mason Tipton deep ball that we saw 5 times in 4 practices in training camp. Got us all hyped.
Right. Maybe.
Saw it on the play Carr got hurt on in Kansas City. It's really the only one.
Well, yeah. I mean, they've taken other deep shots. That was really nowhere even close to being complete, though. I mean, it was a decent enough throw by Carr, but Tipton couldn't come up with the Willie Mays style catch over the shoulder. So.
Yeah. You're talking about like a deep ball completion.
That's what I'm talking about.
Successful one. Yeah. I thought you just meant the shot. The other thing, the Falcons injury report, they got a couple, Grady Jarrett's on the injury report, and then Troy Anderson, who had 17 tackles against the Saints in the first meeting.
And a pick 6.
Yeah,
right?
and a pick 6. He gets hurt and hasn't played again since. It's just the Saints' luck. That's how the season is going, that he's going to be back, it looks like, in time to play the Saints again.
Yeah, I think he was full participant in practice all week. He was on the injury report, but full participant.
So, this Falcons defense, I don't know, Matt, what do you make of it? They don't have a huge pass rush. It's not their strength, but the secondary is very good. I mean, it does, again, play into hands of trying to run the ball.
Yeah, I think it's a fine enough defense that as long as that Falcons offense is clicking, it can do well enough to kind of allow to not put as much pressure on the offense to keep. It's not going to win you games outright, but it's good. It's good enough to be, if they have an average defense, that's good enough to maybe contend.
It's like they've got 2 really good players at safety. Jesse Bates might be the best safety in football. Justin Simmons has played pretty solid this year. They've got a good player at corner in AJ Terrell. They've got good linebackers, but like their pass rush is an issue. I think Derek Carr was maybe sacked once in that first game. Matthew Judon hasn't really been like the difference maker they were hoping for. The Falcons' pass rush has been an issue for years. That's. I fully don't anticipate them like hitting a bunch of big plays in the passing game, but like that is when you're looking at where they're most solid. It's in the back 7.
Yeah, it's funny to think about them being in LinkedIn mock drafts to Jared Verse, who's had just like a great season, and they drafted Penix. They could use Verse right now.
Drafts have consequences.
Well, they traded for Judon, and he's just been been just okay. And I think a lot of it has to. You want to say defensive scheme, but I mean Raheem Morris is one of the better defensive coaches in the NFL. It's just like for whatever reason, just like hasn't translated for them. I don't know why.
But if you're them, I mean, they're going to try to make Derek Carr beat him. I mean, they're going to try to stop the run. It's just going to be a matter of if they can do it, and we don't know.
You guys think AJ Terrell travels with Mason Tipton?
Stop.
No, I mean the receivers are an issue. Somebody's going to have to step up for the Saints.
Yeah.
Even if they do run the ball well, somebody's going to have to make.
Look,
those
if they could just get one big play out of that group, which is asking a lot.
Yeah, but you make them respect it.
Yeah,
They don't even have Bub Means.
it's true.
The guy that will go out this week.
Yeah, it's really in shambles.
All right, on the other side, when the Falcons have the ball, this is interesting too because for the first time in 10 years, we're not going to have Dennis Allen calling the Saints defense. It's going to be Joe Woods. Do you expect any certainly not dramatic changes, but what changes do we think Joe Woods brings?
Well, if you listen to Tyrann Mathieu, they're going to be hunting more. And if you listen to Joe Woods, he said, maybe. He didn't really agree with that assessment.
What does that even mean?
No one knows what it means. It's provocative. No. What does that mean? That's a good question. So the way that Woods interpreted it is it was just putting players in better position to make plays rather than actually sending more blitz, rather than emphasizing to get off the line of scrimmage faster. Now, they've really drilled down fundamentals this week. Like, in the portion of practice we're able to watch, that I just feel like that's what the defensive line has been doing constantly, is just like fundamentals. And they switched defensive line coaches with Brian Young running that group now. So they're going to try and get better play out of them. Maybe they'll play with more effort, more energy after Allen is let go. But Joe Woods, he's been a defensive play caller before. It didn't really go great in Cleveland. And so we'll see. But, just probably get more effort out of the group, I think, is going to be the main emphasis for them.
I think one of the interesting things that came out of yesterday, Cam Jordan spoke, and obviously Cam's had a diminished role this year, and he's kind of a diminished player versus what he has been in his career. But somebody asked him about Brian Young, who he's been with the organization forever, and Matt just referenced it. Todd Grantham's no longer the coach in the defensive line. He's in more of a senior assistant role. It's not a demotion. It certainly feels like one. So one of the things that Brian Young has been emphasizing this week, which has been different, Cam said under Grantham it was scheme. And under Young it's technique. So I am curious just if that small change in the defensive coaching side of things gets gets just a little bit more out of that defensive line. And see if look, it's not like his voice hasn't been there, but the emphasis is different, and maybe that will result in some of these very close almost sacks that they continuously have been piling up, turning into actual big plays defensively.
They have a sack rate of 5.4%, which is the same as last year's number.
Not good. It does feel to me like pass rush maybe is one of those things where a little extra effort can make a difference. There's been a lot said about Chase Young's effort this year and things like that.
Maybe you still hit that 15-5, man.
What do you think, like 14 and a half more sacks? He's a lot.
Two.
Two per game.
I don't know if Rizzi has that much juice to put in that. Anyway, what were you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I do think it's important. Matt Ryan he threw for over 500 yards against the Bucs the first meeting. I think
Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins.
Jeez, that was bad. Kirk Cousins threw for over 500 yards against the Bucs. He had a big game against him again. He's had several big games. You got to get him off his mark, off his rhythm. I mean, that's going to be a big part of this.
They have a lot of issues when it comes to trying to stop Atlanta, I think, because Atlanta runs the ball really. I mean, Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. What was his stat? 7
yards carry. But to the notebook.
Yeah, he's
41 carries, 287 yards, 7 yards a carry
against
on the
the
dot.
Saints.
Yeah,
he's killed them. I don't know why they don't use him more. Obviously, Bijan's a very good player, but even the last game they had when Atlanta really started taking over the game, it was when they just gave Tyler Algier the ball a bunch, and the Falcons played that annoying feed Tyler thing on the PA over and over and over again.
So for the Falcons, I mean, they got to decide, okay, do we want to run the ball or are we going to take these shots at this bad secondary that the Saints, I mean, not bad, I mean, wounded, yeah.
Darren Mooney had he looked like an all-pro receiver last time.
I mean, I just think there's a lot of ways that the Falcons can attack the Saints defense, and they got to stop the run first, though.
It's funny. We sit here and talk about, Algier's had all this success, and Darnell Mooney had a big game, and Kirk Cousins has been. They didn't score an offensive touchdown against the Saints in the first meeting.
They haven't scored it's like 7 straight quarters. They haven't scored an offensive touchdown.
So I don't know if that's a matchup thing. Obviously, the red zone defense has been good against them, but it's not like it's impossible to shut this offense down.
Yeah, they played a lot better though. I mean, Cousins is longer removed from the Achilles injury, which was really affecting him earlier in the year. They've had more time on task together. I think they look like a different offense. I mean, I would fully expect Atlanta to score a couple touchdowns in this game.
Okay, going to move on to special teams. Quick note here that, again, with all the shuffling around on the coaching staff, Darren Rizzi obviously is not going to be a dedicated special teams coach. How do you guys think the Saints will handle that, and does anything change?
I mean, they hired a new coach to the staff this week to kind of help pick up some of that slack. Marwan Malouf, who's longtime NFL special teams coach, has been a special teams coordinator before. Phil Galliano's taken on a larger role, but I would still anticipate that Darren Rizzi's going to be heavily involved in that.
Yeah. Galliano's still going to be upstairs in the box. He's not even going to be down on the sideline, so it'll still be Rizzi kind of overseeing that group.
Ooh, bold prediction time.
Matthew Hayball returns
block punt this week.
Oh.
I mean, I was looking at this. They've only had one official block against the Falcons, a block punt since I think 2018. It was part of looking up the Taysom Hill stats. I thought he'd gotten his hands on one, but how the official stats work. I mean, if you get a hand on a punt and it goes 3 yards, it doesn't count as a block. They have blocked a kick against them. Feels like this is one where Rizzi, if the setup is right, it tries to get his special teams unit to make a big play. One of his signature types of plays.
Rebirth.
Yeah, look, have they gotten rebirth?
It's almost heresy.
Come on, man. Have they gotten? I think they've gotten their hands at least on 2 punts already this year, right?
Too early, right?
I think they got
Panthers
one in the Panthers game, and
first
then
Panthers game.
Sorry, JT got his hand on one.
Yeah,
I don't know which game.
they're really good at it.
Was it Tampa?
It might have been. Yeah, it was Tampa. You're right. Look, it's something they really excel at. I mean, one of the things about this, the way they've constructed this roster, is they got a bunch of tall, long guys, and they put Peyton Turner on the punt block team. It's like 84-inch wingspan or whatever it is, and they put these guys out there, and I think, that's my bold prediction for the week: block punt.
I like it. I like that. And Matthew Hayball may just let him run.
He hit 20
Australian Flash.
20.2 miles per hour according to Next Gen Stats on his fake punt.
That's pretty crazy.
They should let him run back kicks.
Okay, now
I would want to see it.
might get his head taken off.
Put
but he
it
gets in
on
the
one of
yards
those old. What was the old ESPN thing? Get jacked up.
Oh yeah.
That they stopped doing
big
when,
hits,
when
but-
they realized that CTE was a problem.
Concussion lawsuits and all that. All right,
Tells the truth.
moving on to our keys to the game, and a block punt could certainly be a key to the game. But I just kind of overarching, Rod. If Darren Rizzi, I assume he'll be a candidate for the full-time job. I don't think he's the favorite or anything. If he's going to get it, he's going to have to show some results, like Antonio Pierce did in Las Vegas last year. And it can't be. The last couple of games where they just sneak out a couple of wins and finish 5-12. Like, it's going to have to be one of these games that maybe at least still has some modicum of meaning, right? So I think they do kind of go for broke here under Rizzi, to your point of trying to find a punt blocker.
Yeah, right, Rod. Sometimes you got to step out and show them.
Something they haven't done since September the 15th.
A line that shall live in infamy. All right.
Shout out Captain Toro.
So with that as a backdrop, I think they are going to kind of go all out to win this thing. They're going to focus on, putting their best foot forward under the Riz. What have you got, Matt? Key to the game.
Run the ball because they don't have anyone to throw it to.
All right, I will follow up on that and also say run the ball. I will bring some statistics out of the notebook again. Okay, Falcons, according to Next Gen Stats, are allowing a league worst 47.1 success rate. So for those keeping a track at home, that's 40% of the yards you need on first down, 60% of the yards you need on second down, 100% of the yards you need on third or fourth down. Those are considered successful runs. So almost half the time teams are getting a successful run against them. And they have missed tackles on 27% of the carries they've faced this year, which is like the fourth worst mark in the NFL. So they are gettable in run defense. And we saw that the first time these two teams met, especially when you got Taysom Hill in there, you got Alvin Kamara, and they might get Jamal Williams back this week, but who knows what that means. Look, I think that's where you gotta start and end the game plan. Like, you got to beat them up on the ground. It's the only way. It's like the thing from Avengers. What's his name?
Venom?
No, the Benedict Cumberbatch character.
Doctor Strange.
Yeah. When he's holding up the one finger. This is like the one outcome.
Yeah.
Wow, I really stumbled my way.
One out of a billion universes in which the
Got
Saints
your
win.
nerd stats, but not your nerd movies.
All right, over to this side. Rod, what you got for a key to the game?
Got to run the ball, but I think the defense has to get some turnovers and just kind of get some kind of momentum early, and I think that's what would do it. Either turnovers or a special teams play. If you do that, you got a shot. But a lot of things have to go right for the Saints to win this game.
Yeah.
Like, everything has to go right.
And I think that could be a couple of sacks too. Maybe it's not a huge game. Get them behind the sticks, force them out of field goal range one time, make them punt, that sort of thing. So,
just out of curiosity, I'm interested in your take on this. What do you think the crowd's going to be like? Somebody asked me about that this week, and I'm like, I don't know. If Dennis would have still been out there, I might have saw 2,000 bags on heads in this game. I just don't know though. Like, I don't know what the vibe is in the fan base.
I don't think the dome's going to be rocking by anything,
Right.
but I think you got some fans. There'll be some back that wouldn't have come, so that helps. But I don't think it's going to be.
Did they
great
introduce
atmosphere.
Dennis or Darren after the?
I think you have to.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to do whatever you can to get that place going, and
and it may not be rocking at the beginning, but I think if the Saints are up 7-3 mid-second quarter and they get a sack or something, like, you're going to start to hear it get into it. I think if they show they have a chance to win the game.
yeah. I just don't know what the crowd's going to be like, though. I mean, will it be full or will it be Falcons? I don't know.
I mean, the fact that it's Atlanta, I think, does them favors because what the rivalry means. I think people want to show up for that. I mean, Cam Jordan, he said that he feels like Saints fans are still behind them, and besides Twitter, like that's.
I was about to say, is Cam on
Has he-
Twitter?
has he-
but,
has
he's
he-
on, but he's on Twitter.
has he
so-
read his
He
replies?
said
Yeah.
besides Twitter that like when he goes out, people are still enthusiastic, and I don't know. I feel like
Yeah, they go,
even
hey Cam, great job, and then they go back on their Twitter, they're like,
Yeah.
screw this guy. The get-in price, lowest, cheapest ticket, which is conveniently right in front of the press box, $50.
That's not bad.
that's I mean that's better
not
than
bad at all.
6.
I think I actually saw one for like 27 like 2 days ago. So maybe they're.
Or else it's Falcons fans who are seeing cheap tickets and get a cheap flight.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I really remember Falcons fans traveling super well for these games.
I don't know.
Like if
They don't have that reputation.
If
yeah.
it was like I bet there's going to be a ton of Cleveland fans, even though Cleveland's terrible. I bet there's going to be a ton of them.
And
in
just
the dome.
Jameis 101. Just
Well, you also get teams that don't come down here a lot. It's like
Right.
it's a vacation spot, right? Like you try to.
Yeah, mid-November in Cleveland, you're trying to get the hell out, find a place that is
Exactly.
warm and fun. Yeah, you usually see those kind of northern teams travel well this time of year, but I don't know about Falcons fans.
Yeah.
I mean, there obviously are going to be some, but who knows? We might see the lower bowl completely empty out, and it's just black and red down there like it was for the Buccaneers game.
Okay, Saints Insider brought to you by Bank Plus. It's time for our predictions. Leave your predictions in the comments below on the YouTube channel, and while you're at it, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Jeff Duncan is not here today. Jeff has picked the Saints 6 weeks in a row. Has he picked them for every game of the 7-game losing streak?
He's picked them for every game except for the
except the first
Cowboys
game.
game.
Yeah. So he's picked them for every game. So he is on his own 7-game
No, he
losing
picked him for the
streak.
Cowboys game.
No, that was the only game he didn't pick the Saints.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
he got it
Because
wrong.
of his
Right,
loyalty
right,
to Mike
right,
McCarthy. So
right.
he's 1-8 on the season.
So he is on his own he's on an 8-game losing streak, and he's trying to change the juju by picking the Falcons. He took Atlanta 31-26, which seems really high scoring to me.
he's not here, so I'm gonna veto that and say Jeff's picking it 17-16 Saints. I'm not allowing him to pick the Falcons.
We're gonna scratch the graphic out. All right, Rod. Dr. Strange says the Saints have one way in a billion to win this game. What's your prediction?
There's nothing logical about it. On paper, I mean, the Falcons are clearly the favorites. I think 3.5? I don't think that's really enough, but I just think somehow this team is going to, for this one game, I'm not going to pick them again probably the rest of the season, by the way, but I am picking the Saints to win. There's some 23-20. Maybe Blake Groupie makes the field goal and the walk-off field goal like Younghoe Koo did in Atlanta. But I just think they're going to find a way to win. I just think Rizzi is going to have them so fired up. I think the defense is going to probably play one of the better games. And I'll probably end up looking like an idiot. But hey, I can't say that because I'll wait. Go ahead.
Okay. See the I agree with you on every point except for one, and that's I think 3.5 points is too much. I think this is a close game. I think the Saints are going to juice it up. They're going to find a way. They're pulling out all the stops. They're either going to get completely annihilated, or they're going to bring this thing down to the wire, play with a lot of energy, play with a lot of passion, show that they still have some talent on the roster. And so I'm with you. I guess Dr. Strange says there's two possible ways because I got 20-19 Saints.
Oh, I didn't realize you.
And I went in there to put my prediction in our little file that publishes on NOLA.com, and I thought I'm going to be, look like the idiot. And Rod, you were the only one who had your prediction in there. I thought now both of us have picked the Saints. So talk some sanity into us.
Well, I just want to point out that you said 3.5 felt high, and then you said the other outcome is they get just completely pantsed. So
I do, but I think it's more likely that this is a close game.
okay, I agree with you. I think it's going to be a close game. It just because like sometimes you get that sense in the lead up to a week. I think there was a lot of these weeks where Rod was probably picking up on that energy in the locker room when he's correctly predicting all these games. And we're going to try to make a comeback here. You're 7-2 on the season now. Yeah. I think to me I'm expecting it to be a lot more competitive this week. I still don't think the Saints get it done. I have the Falcons 27-24, but I do think that they're going to show a little bit more fight in this game. It's just that to me the injuries are are way too much for me to actually pick them to beat the Falcons. But I think it's going to look like a different team than we've seen the last couple weeks.
Matt was the wet blanket on all the hashtag vibes early in the show, so we'll end with him.
Yeah, I'm gonna be the wet blanket. I think 3 is low. Like I would make that 6 or 5. But I mean I have it 27-17 for the Falcons. I think where the Saints will play harder is limiting them to the 27 range. Like I think if they can keep Atlanta in check that way, that's fine. But they're still like, I mean, I think they're going to miss Kool-Aid McKinstry. There's no Paulson Adebo. They traded Marshawn Lattimore. Like, we kind of glossed over the corner situation. Shamar Jean-Charles had that amazing interception, but it didn't really sound like Rizzi thought he played pretty well besides that, or maybe it was Joe Woods. But I just think they're really banged up at corner. We've hammered home the receiver problems. And I just think the Falcons are in a groove right now. And so, yeah, I think we'll see a little bit more effort and energy out of New Orleans, and it might keep it close for like the first half, but I just think the Falcons are going to get distance and win it comfortably.
Well, Rico Payton erasure from Matt over here.
Like, he's not going to be in the lineup.
I was just kidding. Rico Payton's played like 10 defensive snaps all season.
It's probably a bad matchup for the Saints. I mean,
It's a
if
bad,
they were playing Cleveland this week or something,
I think I would
against
pick them to
Jameis,
beat Cleveland.
You might would have
yeah.
picked them, but I mean, this is a bad matchup.
What
but
score would you have picked if Dennis Allen was still the coach? Because you sounded like the effort keeps it within 10. What would the score have been?
I mean, I probably would have picked the same score.
No,
Would you have picked the Saints if DA was still the coach?
no way.
Looking at me like I'm
I mean, I
crazy.
probably would have said like
After
30,
losing to Carolina, no.
31-17 or something like
No,
that.
it'd have been worse than
with
that, man.
DA.
Yeah.
If they had brought him back this week,
Oh, yes. Sorry, I thought you meant just like in a vacuum. Yeah, after the Panthers game, and if
Yeah,
they had
yeah.
brought,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
I would have gone like 31-10.
Yeah.
We're all giving Darren Rizzi a lot of credit then.
no, I think we just, yeah.
I mean,
Well, 4 of us are giving Darren Rizzi a lot of credit.
I like Darren Rizzi too.
Yeah,
I think
I mean, there's
nothing against him.
absolutely a chance that Matt's right about this. Yeah, he's also you also have a lot more experience covering this type of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it's wise to lean on that. I just for me personally, just it's felt like different vibes this week, and I do think that has an outcome. But like, there's definitely a very good chance that they're just a 2-7 football team that is 2-8 after this week, and looks like it.
I mean, going back to the Callahan thing, they actually did win their first game under him, but they beat the Dolphins, who were tanking for Tua that year. Burrow went number 1, but it was the tanking for Tua race, and they barely won that game too. So I think the Falcons are a lot better team than that Miami team, and I just don't see. Maybe it's more of a vote of confidence in the Falcons. I just think they're playing well.
I am glad we had a realistic viewpoint looking at this and saying, wait a minute, the Falcons are still much better than the Saints. So we'll see. We're kind of split here. Well, post-game show for you on this same YouTube channel. Sunday after the game, win or lose, win the game or lose it by 50. We'll still be there, and we'll take your comments and questions. For our producer, Norman Bell, he's Rod Walker, Luke Johnson, Matthew Paris. I'm Zach Ewing. Thanks for watching the Saints Insider Podcast.
Merry Christmas.